Hello, I'm Joseph Dillard. Welcome to the Integral Deep Listening video curriculum. In our previous interview on reading back the interview, we covered the basics of why reading back is done and why it is so valuable. In this example, we explore more aspects of reading back that demonstrate how it drives home the core emphases of the interviewed perspective and how they relate to the dreamer's life. While this example lacks three initial life issues, we see how valuable and relevant recommendations for life change are still produced by the interviewing protocol. Note that the reading back of each section happens concurrently as one statement after the questions and answers of the interview. Obviously, in order for this to happen, a written account of the interview has to be available. This is another reason why doing so is important and why using the online format provides a superior framework for doing so. So, we begin in this case by asking the dreamer, Andrea, tell me a dream you remember. It can be an old one, a repetitive dream, a nightmare, or one you are sure you understand. Andrea says, I am with my sister, who is 10 years younger than me, and she is 3 to 4 years old. We are in a completely destroyed city, like bombed Berlin. We don't see much. We are climbing over the gravel. 2 soldiers in uniform appear before us with guns in their hands. They are standing in front of us with the guns pointing at us. I say, please spare the little one. All of a sudden, I am above the scene. My sister vanishes in the fog, and when she is gone, the soldiers shoot me. So here's a comment about how we listen to a dream that is being told. Integral deep listening encourages the interviewer and others who may be listening to an interview to develop one or more hypotheses about why the subject had the dream or is experiencing their life issues. Those assumptions help to create a cognitive structure to compare to the answers given first by the subject in her or his associations before the interview, and then to guide questioning afterward, after the conclusion of the interview. It also helps to surface our own interpretations, so that when and if the interview is read back, as it is in this case, they are either set aside in order to hear the perspective of the interview character, or owned as our own interpretations. For example, upon hearing this dream, my hypothesis was that as an adolescent, when Andrea had this dream, she was in a caretaker or mentor role in her relationship to her sister, who is 10 years younger. Since the sister is 3 to 4 years old in this dream, that would make the dreamer 13 or 14 in the dream, regardless of how old she was when she actually had it, possibly a few years older. The dreamer lives in Berlin, Germany, and in the dream she is in a destroyed city, like bombed Berlin. As a metaphor, what is one's home city? It is the broad socio-cultural context in which we find ourselves in our life. So as a hypothesis, the implication is that the dreamer's socio-cultural context is destroyed. Some sort of vast wasteland, and both she and her sister are in the same predicament, climbing over gravel. As one perspective on life, it's not pretty. Soldiers appear. What are soldiers? Well, authority figures with authorization to commit violence, abuse, destruction, and to kill. So, that's the basic context in the dream. 2 miners in a wasteland, one in a protective role, since Andrea begs the soldiers not to shoot her younger sister, who are confronted by authority figures. Who are the authority figures for children and adolescents? Generally speaking, parents, older family members, teachers, and elders in general. Also, the internalized authority figures are the parents living rent-free inside our heads. Those are important authority figures as well. So my hypothesis here, as I listened to the dream, was something like, What might this dream be saying about the relationship between Andrea and the external and internal authority figures in her life, at least at the age when she had this dream, if not still today? First, that this relationship is seen from one perspective in this dream as a persecutorial relationship within the drama triangle. That does not mean that all relationships with all authority figures, interior and exterior, are persecutorial always for Andrea, but only that at the time of this dream that some relationships with some authority figures were seen that way sometimes. At least that's the theory I had. Andrea puts herself in a sacrificial role, rescuer, in relationship to her much younger sister, in relationship to these authority figures. And if we think of these authorities as persecutorial interior voices, then Andrea is sacrificing herself for some younger, more innocent aspect of herself. We don't know. It's a theory. In the dream, Andrea succeeds in doing so, but at the cost of her own life. Since we aren't talking about physical life, what does that mean? Sacrificing ourselves for the more innocent at the loss of what? What is life apart from physical existence? Happiness? How does one define happiness? All of that is an example of the sort of background hypothesis that may arise when we hear a dream or life issue, but rarely surfaces or articulated in the detail that I just gave. While we don't need to do such an elaborate exposition of our thinking, my purpose here is to demonstrate that such assumptions exist for all of us, and if we aren't aware of them, they get in the way of both interviewing and reading back the interview. So now we ask Andrea, please give this dream a meaningful title. And she calls it The Soldier Dream. Question, the reason why I think I had this dream is? Answer, maybe about my rescuing role. Did I want to rescue her? Question, what other characters are there in this dream beside yourself? If one of them had something especially important to tell you, which one might it be? Soldiers. Andrea chooses to interview the soldiers, metaphorically the authority figures in her life, not her sister, who is a similar victim in a wasteland, or the city, the broader, more objective sociocultural context. So, she is wanting to understand better the relationship between herself and perceived persecuting authority. At least that is the unspoken hypothesis and initial interpretation which is surfaced and tabled in favor of listening to what the interviewed emerging potential has to say. Now we address the interviewed soldiers. Soldiers, will you please describe yourself? How big are you? What color are you? Where are you? What are you doing? Soldiers, we are in a destroyed city. We are on patrol. We have orders to shoot whomever we meet. Reading back. I am in a destroyed reality, vigilant. I have a duty to kill survivors, victims. Commentary. We find that the soldiers are all about duty. What is killing in a dream? Since we cannot die in dreams, killing amounts to repression, denial, suppression, forgetting, or otherwise eliminating potential threats to authority. To what authority? At this point, we don't know for sure. It could be external authority, like parents, or internal authority, like conscience, and internalized parental voices, thoughts, or both. But the framing is already clear. Scripting as duty to suppress any threats of some source of authority. Question. Soldiers, what do you like most about yourself? What are your strengths? Soldiers. We are loyal to our country and fulfilling our duties. We stand behind our comrades. Reading back. I am loyal to my family and sociocultural scripting, and I fulfill my responsibilities to them. I stand behind my family and the authorities in my life, even when I don't like it or my conscience doesn't like it. Commentary. A strong sense of familial or tribal loyalty often causes us to ignore our conscience and do what protects our clan or group. It's an evolutionary survival adaptation. Authorities typically use this tendency to bend people to their will and get them to do things they themselves don't want to do, like killing. Question. Soldiers, what do you dislike most about yourself? Do you have weaknesses? What are they? Soldiers, we have sworn an oath to serve our country and follow orders. We have a bad feeling, a bad conscience when we have to carry out orders that we don't like. Reading back. I have made a fundamental life commitment to obey my parents and authority figures, to do what they tell me to do. I have a bad feeling about it, a bad conscience, when I have to be dutiful and obedient in ways I don't like. Commentary. So, we are seeing what could have created this dream, an interior conflict between a basic life script commitment to being dutiful to first exterior, as a child, and then internalize directives or injunctions that one is committed to obeying. Question. Soldiers, in what ways are you just like Andrea? Answer. We are both loyal, but Andrea wouldn't go as far as we do. Reading back. You and these authority figures are both loyal, but you're not willing to play the role of persecutor as much as do some authority figures in your life. Commentary. Whether external like parents or interior like your scripted injunctions. Question. Soldiers, if you could be anywhere you wanted to be and take any form you desired, would you change? If so, how? Soldiers, we would like to have the ability to not do things that are not in harmony with our conscience. We would have let the children go. We would have talked to the children. We would have told them to run. They would have turned around and run away. We are relieved then. We take a deep breath and continue our guard. Reading back. I would like to have the ability to not do things that are not in harmony with my conscience. I would not repress, ignore, suppress, deny, or forget about the younger emerging potentials in myself and my life. I would get to know them, to develop some relationship, some empathy for them. I would have told them to escape the suppression of my authoritative, persecutorial voice of duty. They would then do so. That would relieve my conscience, and I could continue being dutiful, but without being a persecutor. Commentary. Ideal interviewing is about getting to know, to develop some relationship, some empathy with younger emerging potentials within us and within those we interview. It is about doing exactly that. Now, we say to Andrea, if the character, the soldiers in this case, choose to change, what is the name of the transformed character? It stays the same, so there's no change in name. Then we ask for a score in the 6 core qualities. The soldiers score themselves 8 in confidence because they say we have the knowledge that we have permission to follow our conscience. It fills us with confidence to be able to make the right decision. There is still some place left for conflict between orders and conscience, remaining feeling not completely free to follow my conscience. There's still possible conflict. Reading back. I have the knowledge that I have permission to follow my conscience. It fills me with confidence to be able to make the right decisions in my life. There is still some place left for conflict between my sense of duty and my conscience. I am still not completely free to follow my conscience. There is still room for internal conflict. Commentary. Integral deep listening sees conscience as internalized scripting from our childhood, which controls us unless surfaced, examined, and weeded through, to throw out the instructions or injunctions that no longer work for us in our life, while keeping those parts that still work. Ideal differentiates between conscience and our life compass, which is pointed toward by our interviewed emerging potentials. Our scripted conscience, even after it has been surfaced and sorted out, typically does not closely conform to the evolving priorities of our life compass. We have to interview emerging potentials to get a sense of the priorities of our life compass and then compare that with our conscience, keeping that which agrees with the priorities of our life compass and dismissing the rest of our conscience. The second score is on empathy, and the soldiers gave themselves an 8, and they say, we are actually quite good at putting ourselves in the perspectives of others. Reading back, my dutiful self is actually quite empathetic, being able to put myself in the perspectives of others. Commentary. So, while you can be persecutorial out of a sense of duty, your basic nature is to follow your conscience and to be empathetic. Next score is for wisdom, a 7. The soldiers say, before we would have said 5, because we were in conflict with our conscience. With the change and being able to follow our conscience, we are 7. Reading back. Before the interview, I would have said my wisdom was average because I was in conflict with my conscience. With the permission to revise my scripting and to follow my conscience, my wisdom is greater. Commentary. A common response from IDL interviewing is a broadening of perspective that translates into an increase in wisdom. The soldiers gave themselves a 7 in acceptance, and they say, we chose to become soldiers. We do our job well with compassion and dedication. Reading back, I chose to become a dutiful authority figure. I do my job well with compassion and dedication. Commentary. Teachers are dutiful authority figures. Most parents attempt to be so. Next score, the soldiers give themselves a 3 to a 4 in inner peace. Because, they say, due to the death and destruction we have had to see and participate in. Okay, that's interesting. Reading back, due to the death and destruction I have had to experience in my life and participate in, my inner peace is low. Commentary. Most people rarely think about how much inner peace they have. This is one reason why we ask about these 6 core qualities, to bring those out of awareness more into the forefront of awareness and to move toward a greater balancing and integration of all 6 qualities. The soldiers give themselves a 7 in witnessing. They say, we are developing this quality more and more, realizing how important it is. Reading back, I am developing the ability to be objective, to stand back and watch myself go by, apart from drama, realizing how important it is. Commentary. Integral deep listening is basically about this sort of waking up. Soldiers, if you were in charge of Andrea's life, would you live her life differently? Answer, nothing. Reading back, I wouldn't live my life differently. Commentary. There was no inquiry about 3 life issues at the beginning of the interview, so there is no feedback regarding them. Soldiers, if you had one recommendation, one thing your human could work on every day that would make the biggest difference in her life, what would it be? Soldiers, we recommend for her to have more equanimity, witness more, not be entangled, have more objectivity, not to follow her kids' invitations into the drama triangle so often. Reading back, I recommend that I develop more equanimity and objectivity, to not become entangled, to witness more, to not follow the invitations of emotional impulsivity into the drama triangle. Commentary. A central characteristic of both children and our pre-personal selves is emotional impulsivity, and that reactivity is what generally pulls us into the drama triangle, undercutting both relationships and our own self-esteem. Soldiers, what help does your human need from their family to make progress with your recommendation? Answer. Getting more into knowledge about the drama triangle, becoming more aware, to hear signal words. Reading back. I need to surround myself with others who are out of the drama triangle and more aware of how it works and how they can get sucked into it and who choose not to play. Also to recognize and not use signal words that throw me into one or another role of these 3 roles of the drama triangle. The signal words are talked about in another video. They're words like can't, ought, should, must, ought, that trigger us into the drama triangle. Commentary. This stream and interview supply a good example of why IDL teaches script analysis, awareness of the drama triangle, and signal words. Thank you, soldiers. Here are some questions for your human. Andrea, what did you hear soldiers say? Andrea, I heard that they recommended that I witness more, stand back, and watch before I act, to become more aware of the drama triangle, its roles and signal words, to not get sucked into the drama triangle when my kids invite me to. I also heard that they are not happy to follow orders that are contrary to their conscience, and that if they had the choice, they would make other decisions. Instead of shooting, they would have made contact, talked to us, and let us go. Such experiences harm their inner peace and their life. They become number when they have no protection against such horrible experience. Reading back. What I heard myself say is that I need to witness more, stand back, and watch before I act, to become more aware of the drama triangle, its roles and signal words, to not get sucked into the drama triangle when my kids invite me. I also heard that this authoritative perspective that I interviewed is not happy to follow orders that are contrary to conscience, and that if I allow it, the choice, it, would make other decisions. Instead of shooting off my mouth or shooting myself in self-critical thoughts, I would ask questions to gather information, develop a relationship and empathy, and move out of conflict with others and with myself. Such experiences harm my inner peace and my life. I become more numb, more anesthetized in life, more like a zombie, just going through the motions of living when I have no protection against such horrible experiences. I experienced the soldiers becoming more human than they were before because I heard them say they would make a different decision. They do have empathy and are in conflict in carrying out orders that are in conflict with their conscience. Reading back. I experienced the authoritative persecutorial perspectives in my life becoming more human than they were before because I developed greater empathy for them out of understanding their perspective. I heard them say they would make a different decision. That aspect of myself, that perspective, does have empathy and is in conflict in carrying out orders that are in conflict with my conscience. What I think this dream might be about is, answer. It is difficult to know why I had that dream at that time. It's a reminder that there are always different perspectives. Reading back. It is difficult to know why I had that dream at that time. It's a reminder that there are always different perspectives. Commentary. Being aware of your parents as persecutors that willfully killed or suppressed your creativity and individuality out of their own sense of duty is a threatening thought because it undermines the legitimacy of your scripting as a dutiful authority. That is a possible reason why it is difficult for you to know why you had this dream at that stage of your life. If you had done this interview then, at that stage in your life, it would have been both a good and a dangerous thing. It would have been dangerous because a greater self-awareness would have possibly brought you into conflict with your parents as well as into interior crisis about who you are and really were right at a stage in your life when you were already struggling to find yourself. However, it would have been a good thing because that sort of self-awareness earlier in life, while making life more difficult because it puts us in conflict with others we need and depend upon, clarifies our own life compass and therefore an authentic, fulfilling path forward. That knowledge helps us navigate the challenging years of our adolescence and set our feet off in our young adult life firmly on a path that feels authentic and productive. In that knowledge, would we have made the same life choices? Would we have chosen the same partners? Would we have needed to go through the same challenges and learn the same life lessons? I doubt it. Because we would be more aware of and balanced in all 6 of the core life qualities, our discernment would have been better. Probably much better. So, there's another example of reading back an interview. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.